Hello Scotland enthusiasts! This video takes you through the 9th day of our motorbike tour from Inverness to Edinburgh. Along the way we visit the Glenfiddich Distillery and take a look at one of Scotland's landmarks, the Kelpies. The GPX tracks are in the description. Let's go! Today we start in Inverness, where the North Coast 500 begins and ends. Our journey takes us past the Glenfiddich Distillery and along scenic roads to the Kelpies, a Scottish landmark, before we finally reach our destination for the day, Edinburgh. We have already travelled several miles when we crossed the River Nain near the small village of Cawdor. Unlike yesterday, it is cloudy again, but at least dry, as we approach the village made famous by William Shakespeare. The tragedy and death of Duncan in Macbeth are set there. Today we're travelling through Speyside, Scotland's most famous whisky region in the northeast, named after the River Spey, and home to more than 50 distilleries, over half of all Scottish distilleries, including giants such as Glenfiddich, Macallan and Glenlivet. With its water and barley, the region offers ideal conditions for whisky production, resulting in smooth, fruity whiskies with sherry or vanilla notes, and is home to its own whisky route, the Speyside Malt Whisky Trail. Many distilleries offer tours, but you have to book in advance, which we unfortunately didn't do. We'll just try our luck. We drive leisurely through the Moray region towards the small town of Forres, passing through green landscapes and not giving a second thought to the fact that we are actually driving through a witch's stronghold, at least if Shakespeare is to be believed. It was here, not far away, that Macbeth met the three witches on a hill who prophesied that he would become king. All he had to do was murder King Duncan. Macbeth really did exist. He was King of Scotland in the 11th century, but his reign was largely peaceful. Suddenly, a small castle appears in the middle of the forest. Well, okay, little castle is probably a better description. Shakespeare would probably have housed the coachman here at most. Now we get that real Scottish feeling as we drive into the royal burgh town of Forres. A royal burgh, or royal town, was a fortified community in Scotland that was founded, or granted, a royal charter or document, which gave it special trading rights, self-government and often a seat in the Scottish Parliament. Although this status was abolished in 1975, it lives on in many historic places with their unique architecture and history. Forres was allegedly already known in ancient times. From the 12th century onwards, it was a fortified settlement designed to protect trade. Today, the nearly 10,000 inhabitants of Forres enjoy numerous craft shops and art galleries. Many cultural events take place here, and in 2015, Forres was awarded the Creative Place Award. Once again, we were fascinated by the beautiful houses and well-tended gardens. No wonder, as Forest has become famous for its continued success in national flower competitions. It is incredible that this commitment is mainly voluntary. All the volunteers have even been awarded the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service. Beyond Forest, the road leads out onto the flat countryside of Moray, one of Scotland's 32 administrative districts. Gentle hills alternate with small woodlands. This is the heartland of Scottish whisky production in Speyside. Glenfiddich, Strathila, Dufftown, Cawdor, Inverness, Balmoral Castle. The map of Moray reads like the drinks menu of a well-stocked bar. But before we can visit a distillery, we first arrive in Dallas. However, this is not the hometown of J.R. Ewing. It is a small village dating back to the 13th century with a population of around 150. We find the architecture a little further south in Archiestown much more interesting, where we stop just before the Hotel 1881 to put on our rain gear. The hotel received the Rosette Award for Culinary Excellence in 2023 and also has a well-stocked public bar. The settlement of Archiestown is a typical 18th century planned village with a grid, street layout and a spacious square. Originally intended as a weaving center, it is best known for the nearby Cawdor, Knockandu, Tamdu and the Macallan distilleries. And suddenly we find ourselves standing in front of the famous Macallan distillery. Macallan has produced the most expensive whiskey in the world to date. In 2023, a bottle of 60-year-old whiskey fetched just under £2.2 million at auction. Incidentally, the age of a whiskey is measured from the moment it is bottled from the cask. After that, it no longer ages. Unfortunately, we find ourselves in front of closed gates today and have to move on. Few distilleries make their own whiskey casks. Most Scottish distilleries rely on the only cooperage in Scotland, the Speyside Cooperage near Dufftown. Around 150,000 oak casks are currently produced each year. Only a very small proportion of these are new, with the majority of the business consisting of refurbishing used casks. The village of Dufftown is considered the whisky capital of Speyside and became famous for the saying, "Rome was built on 7 hills, Dufftown stands on 7 stills." The Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry from the Harry Potter series is also said to be located nearby. Of course, no one has ever seen it. In the heart of Dufftown, we are not only directed to the Glenfiddich Distillery or Balmoral Castle, but can also turn left to the Glenfiddich Distillery, on whose grounds the Balmoral Distillery is also located. So let's just turn off. The Glenfiddich Whisky Distillery has been one of Scotland's largest and best known single malt producers since 1886. Although the building complex appears quite large, the car park is unusually empty, so we are optimistic that we will be able to squeeze into a tour of the distillery, even though we haven't made a reservation. Opposite the car park, we take the visitor entrance to the last Scottish whisky distillery still owned by the founding family. Glenfiddich is one of the most successful whisky producers whose whisky is available almost all over the world and whose triangular bottle shape is typical of the distillery. The taste, at least of the 12-year-old standard bottling, is very mild and therefore appeals to a wide range of customers. The water for the whisky does not come from this pond, which is only used for cooling, but from a spring. The Grant family wisely purchased the entire surrounding area to prevent factories from settling there that could contaminate the spring water. The distillery processes about 400 tons of malted barley per day, producing around 40,000 liters of alcohol. The whisky is stored in 45 warehouses in the immediate vicinity of the distillery. We enter the visitor reception where over 100,000 visitors a year start their guided tours. Costs between £30 and £250 per person. Advance booking is essential, which we didn't do. We consoled ourselves with a visit to the well-stocked gift shop, the only one that's free. Since the shop opened in 1969, many standard bottlings have been on display here, which you can, of course, also buy. Otherwise, the space is packed with merch, but see for yourself. Personally, we prefer the whisky from the sister distillery Balvenie, which is also on display here. We discover some rare and expensive bottlings. In 2012, Balvenie released a first edition priced at £26,000 per bottle to mark the 50th anniversary of the then malt master David Stewart. The latest edition is currently trading at around £44,000 per bottle. In 2023, a 60th anniversary edition was released. They didn't dare to display it here, no wonder, with a market value of £122,000. Dufftown, which we're driving through here after our visit to Glenfiddich, is one of the oldest Christian settlements in Scotland. And since alcohol plays a central role not only in communion, this small town boasts not only whisky distilleries, but also a dedicated whisky shop and a small whisky museum. Throughout the year there are several whisky festivals and the Highland Games, where the Scots compete in sporting events. The 3-story listed clock tower was originally a town jail and now serves as a tourist information center. Behind Dufftown, the road leads out onto flat, very green countryside. The roads are in good condition and you can see for miles. Everything is relaxed. In Scotland, distilleries should not only be associated with whisky. We will soon pass the Glenrinnes distillery, which is famous for its award-winning organic vodka and gin. On a half-day tour of the estate, you can even feed the distillery's own deer, named Alfie and Henry. Nevertheless, we remain loyal to whisky. Did you know that there is a Highland Thai kitchen? It's located in the only Thai restaurant in a Scottish pub. The journey continues through the moorland of the Leather Hills near Glenmalleach. To the left, the path leads to the Well of Lecht, but we accelerate and overtake one of the countless rental motorhomes. 2 centuries ago, this area would have been frequented only by cattle drivers, smugglers and illegal whisky distillers. The winding road reminds us not only that we actually came to Scotland to ride our motorbikes, but also that we are traveling through a beautiful ski resort. All the bands brought back that motorbike feeling, and up here at the Lecht Ski Centre there seems to be a hotspot for many bikers who, like us, then throw themselves into the bends of the Cairngorms National Park. We are driving through the Lecht Ski Resort, which is located at over 2,000 feet in the heart of Scotland's largest national park. 20 ski slopes and 14 lifts, including snowmaking facilities, can be used in winter. In summer, you can use the chairlifts to access the two mountain bike trails. The Cairngorms National Park is the largest of the 15 British national parks. The national park in the Central Highlands is characterized by the enormous Cairngorms mountain range, part of the wider Grampian Mountains. The landscape is characterized by heath-covered plateaus, deep black shimmering lakes, numerous high moors and forests. We drive along one of Scotland's most scenic roads, the A939, but the actual center of the national park can only be reached on foot. Over 20,000 red deer and even semi-wild reindeer live in the forests and heathland of the national park. We are glad that we don't encounter any of the local fauna on our route today. Near the small village of Corgarff, we cross the River Don and look into a small valley with heath moors. Orchids are even said to bloom here. Our gaze briefly falls to the left on the motorcycles in front of the local tea house, Goodbrand and Ross, but then we are already past it. The Snow Road Scenic Route, which we have been traveling on for some time now, is the highest public road in Scotland. From here on, our focus is on motorcycling. If that's too boring for you, please fast forward to minute 22:12. Even though the route is described as challenging, we found the drive to be rather relaxed. Of course, this may be very different when there is actually snow on the ground, which is what gave the snow road its name. At Gairnshiel Lodge, a former Victorian hunting lodge on the banks of the Regan, the well-maintained route comes to an end and we are greeted by numerous warning signs for narrow single-track roads. After a short drive through the forest, we reach another beautiful plateau. In addition to mountainous areas, the Scottish Highlands are characterized above all by large, now treeless moors. The fact that the vast highlands are largely unwooded and uninhabited today is mainly a consequence of the highland clearances, the expulsion of the local population between 1762 and 1884. We discussed this in an earlier episode. The highlands consist largely of moors with layers of peat up to 17 feet steep. Until 1000 AD, the highlands were still forested below 650 yards above sea level. Then deforestation began. By 1900, only about 5% of Scotland's land area was still forested. Red deer and their preference for young shots ensured that no trees grew back. The highlands were less exposed to English influence than the lowlands. As a result, they have preserved their own cultural character more strongly. In particular, the clan structure in the highlands is still alive in some areas or is being revived. Where there are lots of parking spaces in Scotland, there is bound to be a castle or fortress nearby. That's also the case here. We are heading towards Balmoral Castle, the former summer residence of the late British Queen Elizabeth II. She stayed there every year between August and October for about 12 weeks. The castle is privately owned by the British royal family and is not part of the Crown estate. We won't see much of the actual castle with its 70 rooms, because the entire estate covers approximately 150 square miles, including several small villages. The gardens and golf course alone, covering 45 hectares, are maintained by 7 gardeners. After visiting Dunrobin Castle in the last episode of our little series, we've had our fill of castle tours for now, so we're moving on. By the way, until now visitors could only admire the estate's gardens and ballroom, but since 2024 the general public can take special guided tours, for a fee of course, through more of the interior rooms of the listed castle. The catch? Tickets for the tours, which are limited to a maximum of 9 people, are limited to 40 per day from 1st of July to 4th of August and cost £100 each. Anyone who wants to treat themselves to afternoon tea, in addition to the tour, will have to pay an extra £50. The name of the small village of Braemar translates as place by the castle. However, this does not refer to Balmoral Castle but to the small Braemar Castle. In addition to many other attractions, tourists are always drawn to the Highland Games on the first Saturday in September. Beyond Braemar, we now drive along a stretch of road that is very popular with motorcyclists, Cairngorms Pass. At 2,200 feet, it is the highest mountain pass in the United Kingdom to be crossed by a main road and includes 2 notorious hairpin bends with gradients up to 17%, known as Devil's Elbow. Until it was extensively upgraded in the 1960s, the route was extremely challenging, as the late Prince Philip discovered in 1967 when he drove the Queen to Balmoral Castle. Where there are such beautiful mountains, skiers are usually not far away. And that's also the case here. Since 1957, the Gairnshiel Ski Centre, one of Scotland's largest ski resorts, has been located in the pass area. It covers an area of more than 2,000 acres with 4 mountains and 3 valleys. Gairnshiel offers a selection of 36 slopes with a total of 40 kilometers of piste, while 2 tractors pulled skiers up the mountain until 1957. The ski resort now has 22 lifts and drag lifts. The route is regularly used by classic car and motorbike enthusiasts, even though the pass has now been largely straightened and made safe. Before the 1960s, passengers often had to get out of their cars or buses and sometimes even push the vehicle around the hairpin bends. Water was even provided for overheated cars. Incidentally, there is actually a scale for measuring the technical difficulty of pass and mountain roads, the so-called Denzel scale, with 5 basic levels from very easy to very difficult. No, not that Denzel, but this Denzel. The Cairngorms Pass is classified as level 2 to 3, meaning it is manageable for experienced motorcyclists but should not be underestimated. As you can see, the weather changes every quarter of an hour on the pass, so rain gear is recommended. You should refuel either in Braemar or Blackrovery. There is no petrol available on the pass itself. Expect interesting actions by other road users at any time, so keep your eyes peeled on the road. Shortly after crossing the Bridge of Kelly, we take a quick break to check our rain gear. The clouds in the sky look strange. It's just at the right time, because less than 3 minutes later this is what it looks like. A massive downpour falls on us, and we are very glad that we are traveling on this road, which is well developed by Scottish standards. In the meantime, we also had to pull the USB charging cable out of the 360-degree camera. We didn't want to risk major water damage and lose the recordings. Another 3 minutes later, the sky clears again and we drive up a dust-dry driveway to Scone Palace. I freely admit it, we had no idea what Scone Palace was. Worse still, we were hungry and were actually thinking more about scones. Shame on us. We had absolutely no idea what was going on here and stumbled right into the middle of the Scone Palace Garden Fair, a gardening festival. Gardening is a serious sport, they say in England. No other nation cultivates its quirks, cults and rituals with the same seriousness as Britain's amateur gardeners. So here, nurseries sell plants and give tips on how to care for them. Artisans offer garden furniture, and you can buy everything from decoration to entire garden sheds. There are also garden design competitions, lectures, and above all, lots of food and live music. Now a few words about Scone Palace itself. Yes, you can get scones, the pastries, in the small palace restaurant. But Scone Palace was primarily the coronation site of Scottish kings, where Macbeth, Robert the Bruce and Charles II were once crowned while seated on the Stone of Destiny. Today only a replica remains, as the original stone was taken away in 1296. The palace and gardens, which feature a white peacock, are open to visitors 7 days a week during the summer season from April to October for a fee. We had paid for admission to the garden fair and the gardens, but we decided to skip the tour of the castle, which cost an extra £15 per person, and spent the money we saved in the castle's gift shop instead. When we look at the crowds of visitors, it becomes clear why 400,000 Brits have accidents while gardening every year. As we drive through the beautiful countryside outside Dunninglen, allow us to make a few comments about the British passion for gardening. Gardening, ahead of sport, is England's biggest leisure industry. For decades, there has been no more popular radio program than Gardener's Question Time. However, according to official statistics, an average of 50 people die every year in British gardens from electric shocks, from mowing machines, exploding barbecues, wasp stings and poisonous plants. Since the early 18th century, rule-based Baroque gardens have been transformed into natural landscape parks. The Duke of Northumberland sold a famous painting and then invested £42 million in redesigning his garden at the family seat Alnwick Castle. The phrase "garden visiting is a serious sport" is backed up by around 17 million garden visitors every year. Even in small towns like Dollar, which we are driving through right now, there are gardening highlights. In this case, a Japanese strolling garden that was established back in 1908. Private gardens are also open to the public. These gardens are listed in the Yellow Book, the National Gardens Scheme's annually updated address book and travel guide. Crossing the Clackmanshire Bridge, which opened in 2008, we approach the final highlight of today's stage, the Kelpies. These are two stainless steel sculptures depicting water spirits in the form of horses. And no, this time we're not just going to look at the Kelpies from the hard shoulder of the motorway. We made that mistake at the beginning of our Scotland tour in episode 2, because we couldn't figure out all the signs and diversions here. But this time we want to take a closer look at the attraction and fly our drone. The Kelpies, nestled in the recreation area The Helix near Falkirk, demonstrate that Scotland is not just about crumbling castles or wild landscapes. The area offers space for events and features a total of 17 miles of cycle and walking paths. That's why it takes us a while to finally reach the visitor car park. Kelpies are actually water spirits and not necessarily friendly ones. So there is water here too. In fact, the two 100 feet high horses' heads, each weighing 300 tons, are separated by a narrow canal, as you can see from our drone footage. The small canal flows into the larger Forth and Clyde Canal, which connects the Atlantic Ocean in the west with the North Sea in the east across Scotland. The artist who designed the two horse heads, named Duke and Baron, is Andy Scott from Glasgow. The Kelpies were built in just 90 days, and there is even a very nice video about this construction phase, which we have linked for you at the top right. So we have reached the end of today's stage. If you enjoyed our video, please give us a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. See you soon for the last part of our little series.